that Gigantamax form instead of the Dynamax form. So right off the bat, that's a pretty strong difference, and they obviously opted to fill their teams out differently as well.
Yeah, well, the both players with the Togekiss, and very much a change in offensive pressure here. Charizard over on Aaron's side of the field, ready to Gigantamax immediately, but a more kind of defensive choice from Justin's side of the field with the Grimmsnarl.
I believe this is the same lead that we were seeing when Aaron was playing Justin Kruba back in top 8. Kind of interesting to see, if maybe Justin Burns, maybe talk to Justin Kruba. They had a little bit of a Justin powwow to see how that match went up. But, Aaron, it looks like he's going to be Dynamax, or Gigantamaxing rather, that Charizard right off the bat.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason not to, right? It's so strong. You can get the G-Max Wildfire down nice and early, get that residual damage coming through every single turn and helping out there, particularly against these Pokemon in Grimmsnarl and Togekiss that are a little bit bulkier, and that would certainly help. We'll see if there's a Dynamax match.
Here we go.
From the side of Justin. It's going to be an easy choice. You don't want to get knocked out too early on.
Right.
And there it is, the Togekiss confirmed as the choice for Dynamaxing.
Again, I think some of the same early turns from Aaron's top 8 match, so possibly a little bit of an edge knowing that he's played this twice and won it already. But obviously Justin Burns, a different Justin this time around, could have some different plays, and this is actually a different play that we've seen from Aaron's top 8 match.
Yeah, well, Togekiss using Helping Hand will get followed up on the Charizard, being completely the center of attention with the fake tears right now. G-Max Wildfire, though, straight towards that Grimmsnarl. Doesn't want to deal with any more of that, and it still manages to hold on. Of course, there is going to be that residual damage. They're now surrounded by fire, but Togekiss is launching a max airstream at a Pokemon with a super reduced special defense stat, and that is doing a whole lot of damage to a Gigantamax Charizard.
Yeah, two huge attacks from both players that turn, but Justin may have come out on the upper end here because he did get that speed boost from the max airstream, and the Charizard on Aaron's end is that Dynamax Pokemon, which is very weak now, likely knocked out by anything that Justin might want to throw at it with this Togekiss. So Justin is the one that loses the Pokemon this turn. The Grimmsnarl is going to go down to that G-Max Wildfire, but this Togekiss is sitting at +1 speed, will be faster than this Charizard and Aaron's Togekiss.
Well, this is kind of an interesting one, right? It's that yes, you lost the Grimmsnarl, but did it trade well enough? And the fact that you've brought his focal point of his team, his Gigantamax Charizard, down to such a low amount of health and safely got set up with your max airstream, you're probably in a really good position. Speaking of Pokemon moving first, Dragapult coming in.
Yeah, here comes the Dragapult. That Charizard is still at -2 special defense. Depending on what set this Dragapult's running, it can carry either physical or special attacks. If it is more of a special attacker, we'll easily be able to knock out this Charizard. Even a physical attack, Dragapult is pretty strong, so could put this Charizard into range for an attack or a knockout from Dragapult.
Yep, Charizard not wanting to deal with any of it, especially after that early fake tears turn, and taking a Max Guard there. The Max Guard's going to protect it from a Thunderbolt, so good information about what kind of style it's using on that physical or special side. Togekiss on Aaron's side, taking a Max Airstream. It's another speed boost that's pretty much going, I guess, unanswered on Justin's side, as Dragapult gets the benefit of this one, and Togekiss will yawn, making sure that at the end of the next turn, Dragapult's off to sleep.
Right. Interesting yawn target there. The Togekiss on Justin's end, it only has this one more turn of Dynamax left, so even if Aaron decided to target it with that yawn, it would fall asleep at the same time as it lost its Dynamax energy. So, interesting choice to target that Dragapult. It means that if Dragapult stays in to finish off either the Togekiss or the Charizard with a Thunderbolt, likely able to knock out both because it is, carrying that super effective electric type attack.
Oh, well, Charizard's going to try a Max Guard again. Really not doing much apart from that one G-Max Wildfire. The Thunderbolt towards Togekiss, getting the knockout there. Pretty easy. Not too many concerns in that regard. And Dragapult taking a little bit of damage from the Life Orb. Confirmation on the item there. As the third Max Airstream targets down Charizard. Don't forget, it's still got that lowered special defense from the early fake tears, so no question. A critical hit just to rub it in. As really Justin swinging that turn so drastically in his favor. Yeah,
that's a really great turn for Justin there. Picking up 2 knockouts is always great. Aaron trying to go for that, last its Max Guard to possibly save his Charizard one more turn. Fortunately, not going to work. Justin does get that third Airstream off. So Togekiss is at +3 speed. The Dragapult's at +1, but it is going to go to sleep as a result of that yawn. So, kind of tough here for Justin. He's got this Togekiss in a pretty good spot. It's relatively healthy. Hasn't taken much damage yet. I believe only 3 turns of that Max Wildfire so far. But he does have to deal with this Dragapult falling asleep, and the Togekiss losing this Dynamax energy and possibly losing a bunch of its offensive pressure.
Well, this is certainly going to help. I mean, Duraludon's a Pokemon you want to be facing down something like the Togekiss, and with all that time spent boosting his speed, Aaron bringing kind of a nice answer to that in the Jellicent, saying, hey, you can boost your speed all you want, but if you don't have a way to stop me Trick Rooming, I'm going to take advantage of that.
Right, so Justin doesn't really have a great way to stop Trick Room here other than a possible air slash flinch from that Togekiss. Because this Jellicent, a very bulky Pokemon, Dragapult actually very threatening to Jellicent. We've seen that Thunderbolt in the Life Orb, so likely carrying Shadow Ball, which would deal some great damage to it, but it did just fall asleep. So Aaron actually managing the last turns of that Dynamax very well, and putting himself in a position where he knows he can, have a pretty good chance to get Trick Room up here, and put his Duraludon in a great position to start attacking.
Yeah, well, Duraludon protects itself, doesn't want to get caught by any damage from this Dazzling Gleam at all. Will do a good amount of damage to Jellicent with a critical hit. We've seen a good few of those, I think, already in this tournament. And Curse Body activates. No more Dazzling Gleam for this Togekiss. Even if it wanted to try and deal with this Duraludon, it's not going to be given the option. There we go, the G-Max Wildfire Flames coming through. Both Pokemon on Justin's side of the field getting surprisingly low right now. Yeah,
so now that Trick Room is up, this Duraludon will be able to move attack first before this Togekiss can get any big damage off. Duraludon often carrying that Steel type attack Flash Cannon, which should be able to pick off the Togekiss here. The Dragapult very low, he possibly in range from an attack from either of these Pokemon as well.
Yeah, well, Togekiss leaving the field does want to be able to use its Dazzling Gleam at some point, and we get the confirmation the fourth Pokemon on Justin's team will be Arcanine. So the Bronzong and Rhyperior left at home for this one. The attacks going down on both sides, not really too relevant with these two there, though. Dragapult wakes up and protects itself, though, so not going to get knocked out immediately, keeping itself safe as Jellicent fires off a Water Spout. Water Spout is based on the amount of health you have, but this Arcanine isn't going to appreciate either way, taking not as much damage as you would think, but certainly in a tough position. Duraludon was following up into that slot of Flash Cannon, bringing it below half, and I think that's pretty helpful.
Yeah, that Arcanine, comes in hoping to possibly just take that Flash Cannon. Maybe Justin was expecting an attack into that Dragapult slot from the Jellicent, but the Water Spout covering that option very well. If the Togekiss stayed in, would have taken some chip damage from that Water Spout and then been knocked out by the Flash Cannon. So Water Spout covering the switch option. This Arcanine being under half means that something like a Draco Meteor from Duraludon would easily be able to pick it off. Possibly another Water Spout. It looks like it might be able to survive one more, just based on how much that first one did.
Well, how do you feel about the amount of damage that the Water Spout did from Jellicent? I mean, yeah, it's a little bit above half health here. Probably pushing up that way, but Arcanine still took a real low amount of damage from that Water Spout, and that could be key information for Aaron. If he's looking to deal with the Jellicent, or deal with the Arcanine with the Jellicent, that's not going to be the easiest way. Water Spout, again, the choice, as Arcanine falls exceptionally low, but not low enough for the knockout. Dragapult struggling a little bit there. Thunderbolt following into the Arcanine. So he's really not worried about this Dragapult at all, it seems.
Not at all, yeah. The Dragapult, if it does sound something like a Draco Meteor or a Shadow Ball, it will be able to, do a lot of damage to one of these Pokemon. Oh, Cassib Berry!
Oh, that's hello! Yeah, that is a very cheeky play, and that's why he was not afraid of this Shadow Ball at all.
That's a really cool tech from Aaron there. Cassib Berry, not an item that we've seen very often, if at all, in the mainstream, in the video game championships here, but clearly coming in very handy here. It did allow Aaron to play, a little bit more freely with this Jellicent, not super scared of this Dragapult, and that explains why, for sure. Yeah,
I mean, that's a huge piece of information to give up for potential game 2 and 3. That is so big. I don't think I've ever seen a Cassib Berry activate.
I don't either.
Even in game.
No,
none of the trainers have been like, hey, I'm going to use this Cassib Berry to stop it.
Yeah, but that's put Aaron in such a great spot here. This Duraludon able to threaten the Dragapult with the KO, the Jellicent probably able to knock it out with a Water Spout as well. Even though it's at pretty low health, and this Dragapult is as well. So, yeah. Pretty tough spot for Justin here. This Togekiss often doesn't carry Protect, so if he's not, then he's got to deal with the Duraludon threatening a Flash Cannon as well. So even though it looked like Aaron kind of came out of the poorer end of the first few turns of the game, able to turn it around very well with this combination of Duraludon and Jellicent.
Yeah, well, Jellicent will get its own back on this Dragapult, landing the Shadow Ball there. Super effective, easy knockout for Jellicent there. And it now means that you've got a Duraludon facing down a Togekiss. Togekiss is allowed to Dazzling Gleam now, though, so that's nice. Duraludon will be bought exceptionally low, so there's only one more option for Duraludon to fire an attack here. It will be Flash Cannon. He needs to make sure he gets all the damage down. No Babiri Berry present on this Togekiss. And Aaron, after a really rocky first couple of turns, swung the game around so drastically with a combination of just 2 Pokemon.
Right, that Duraludon Jellicent was huge for Aaron at the end of the game there. He put himself in a great spot with that yawn into the Dragapult, where he knew that he'd be able to get Trick Room up with that Jellicent and then start firing off some very strong attacks. The combination of that Water Spout, we saw Life Orb, Flash Cannon, and Thunderbolt from the Duraludon. Some really strong coverage against Justin's team with that Togekiss and Dragapult in the back. We got a bit of information at the very end of the game there too. We saw that the Duraludon is faster than the Togekiss, which is why the Togekiss moved first in Trick Room. We also saw that Dazzling Gleam do a lot of damage to that Duraludon, and I don't believe I saw a critical hit message there. So So interesting to know that there is a lot of damage possibly coming out from this Togekiss, which traditionally in the past has been, more of a supportive Pokemon and not really known for its offense.
Yeah, but I think, looking at the way Justin played the game, he also did decide to Dynamax the Togekiss.
Yes,
and I think if you're committing on the regular to Dynamax Togekiss, you may as well lean a little bit more into its attacking side of things and make the most of it. I mean, we've seen these max airstreams picking up pretty consistent 2-hit knockouts on most things that they've been going after. So
I believe you commented earlier on how we've seen a pretty good number of critical hits from that Togekiss, possibly indicating that it is using that Super Luck ability instead of the more typical Serene Grace. Generally, players are opting for that Super Luck when they're using Togekiss as their Dynamax Pokemon, just because if you're using these super strong Dynamax attacks, they don't have any secondary effects, so there's no boosting to be done by Serene Grace. But you may as well try to boost your chances of getting some critical hits. If you're using these very strong attacks and you multiply them by 1.5, that is a lot of damage coming out of that Togekiss.
Yeah, that does make the Togekiss really kind of difficult to handle when those airstreams are becoming easy knockouts instead of just, big hits. That's pretty much what you want it to do, especially in those very limited 3 Dynamax turns.
Right.
That said, I mean, Justin did play really well in the first half of the game, but he got caught really short in the backside with just no good answer to this Jellicent, apart from the Dragapult, which just got put to sleep.
The Arcanine didn't really do much for him. It came in on a Water Spout, and I don't even think we saw it attack. We saw the Duraludon and Jellicent knock it out before it took one attack off. So, possibly something that Justin can look to switch up is maybe that Arcanine slot, possibly just playing the Arcanine slightly differently so it doesn't get caught, not getting much out of that slot in this next game.
Yeah, I think something different may be needed here. If you're in Justin's shoes, how do you deal with the Cassiva Berry Jellicent?
I don't know.
Questions I did not expect to ask you today.
Well, we did see the Dragapult has Thunderbolt too, so I believe Thunderbolt through Cassiva Berry would do more than a Shadow Ball through Cassiva Berry. So possibly in that situation, if he knew that the Cassiva Berry was there, he could have gone for that Thunderbolt and possibly knocked it out. But Aaron winning that information game.
Yep, well, we got the exact same leads as we had in game number 1 there. Grimmsnarl and Togekiss, Charizard and Togekiss.
Yep.
Really kind of interesting to see how Aaron adapts to this one. We saw him do it actually in his top 8 match.
Right.
Where he played the same lead and just made a couple of slight tweaks to make the game a lot more comfortable for him. And I'm going to wonder if Justin's going to let him do that.
Yeah, it's interesting. This Grimmsnarl has a lot of cool support options. I believe we've seen, Fake Out and Thunder Wave from Grimmsnarls across the day. And we did see the Fake Tears in game 1. So a lot of cool things this Grimmsnarl can do. But in the meantime, Gigantamax Charizard is going to make its 4th appearance on stream this afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty consistent. You just lead with it,
right.
Gigantamax it, and go from there, get the Wildfire down, and really cause as many problems as you can for the next few turns. There it is. It looks like we're going through the exact mirror once again. Justin throwing up his Dynamax as well. It's just a Dynamax, not a Gigantamax.
Right, not this time.
Not get carried away.
It'll be interesting to see if these players opt for a different turn 1, because this turn 1 is super important, for the rest of the game. It kind of sets the stage for how these players are going to make the most of these 3 turns with their Dynamax Pokemon.
Yep, well, it's going to be Grimmsnarl moving first with the Fake Tears. Exactly the same that we've seen before.
Into the
Togekiss, though. The choice doesn't want to be playing around, and we're just going to start with Max Airstream. So no G-Max Wildfire early on. Grimmsnarl taking a good amount of damage right there. There may be a follow-up, though, from this Togekiss on Aaron's side.
Yawn into this Togekiss, trying to prevent Justin from capitalizing on this Dynamax turn, rather. Yawn is a really great option for these Dynamaxes because it limits their effectiveness, but this immediate KO, thanks to that Fake Tears from the very strong Max Airstream.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the best trade, I think, for Aaron.
I'm not sure, yeah.
He did get the Yawn down, and that's going to be important. You're not going to get 3 speed boosts from Max Airstream this time. You're only going to be capped out at 2. Curiously enough, though, it does allow him to bring in a different Pokemon nice and early, and I kind of like the Jellicent here.
I do, too. Jellicent, very bulky Pokemon, likely won't take a whole lot of damage from this Togekiss. Even if Grimmsnarl does fire a Fake Tears into that slot, likely bulky enough to stick around after another Max Airstream. But, there's not much damage on either of these Dynamax Pokemon. The Charizard and Togekiss both haven't taken any damage yet. We do know that the Grimmsnarl has the option to Fake Tear something again and allow the Togekiss to get a lot of damage off on its final turn of Dynamax before it falls asleep. We do see that Fake Tears into Charizard. Yeah,
Charizard, lower special defense now, probably a lot more manageable. Charizard, though, getting its G-Max Wildfire down, doesn't want to be playing that Max Airstream game. Grimmsnarl's not going to be doing anything more as it's knocked out by that. And there's going to be some residual damage between turns, just a little bit adding up every single time. The second max airstream, it's pretty consistent when you lead with the Togekiss to do so. And Charizard immediately felled by the critical hit coming through. Pretty much confirmation of what you were talking about between games right there, that, hey, guess what? You're going to be landing much bigger critical hits.
Right. A critical hit on a Dynamax move is much more impactful than a critical hit on a standard move. But, you know, Jellicent actually sees the max airstream coming out of Justin and takes advantage of it, because now this Togekiss is at +2 speed and about to fall asleep. We do have the Trick Room coming up, which will negate those speed boosts. Yeah,
that's going to be a little tricky to play around, and I think Aaron's just trying to turn on the same mode he did again, just turn on the Trick Room mode and go. Justin, though, has mixed it up. He has bought the Rhyperior this time, which could be a great answer to the pairing that Aaron is relying on to win this game number 2.
That's a very smart bring from Justin now, because now that the Trick Room is up, the Rhyperior is going to be the slowest thing on the field, and it will be attacking first. Jellicent, we have seen the Water Spout from Jellicent, but if Rhyperior has that move Earthquake, it will be able to get a lot of damage off on this Jellicent, which will weaken that Water Spout and likely allow this Rhyperior to survive a Water Spout.
Yeah, well, Rhyperior's Earthquake immediately starting out. Duraludon, so scared of it had to protect itself. Togekiss, obviously not a concern, that lovely flying type there. Jellicent bought a good amount of health, but Jellicent starts out with Strength Sap, one of those key moves if you want to be trying to stick around a little bit longer, getting that healing there. Not enough to bring it all the way back to full. And yeah, this is going to be a little bit of damage between turns, but honestly, a pretty solid turn there, I think.
Very smart from Aaron. You know, he knew that if he Water Spouted, he would have been at less than full HP, wouldn't have had that full power Water Spout, likely would have activated a weakness policy on that Rhyperior. But instead, entirely negating the damage from that Earthquake. Straight Stab was a phenomenal move on Jellicent. It lowers the target's attack by 1 and heals based on their attack stat. And so a lot of healing coming in from that Jellicent. Now the Duraludon could be able to survive an Earthquake from this -1 Rhyperior, and then able to fire off something like a Flash Cannon in combination with a Water Spout with this Jellicent.
Yeah, be curious to see what this Jellicent can do to cause problems against this Rhyperior. Like you said, not activating the weakness policy as well, real helpful. And he's probably going to be able to find a way around it, just not activating at any given time. Rhyperior's Earthquake heading on out there. It's been weakened though, so we'll see how much it actually does.
Yeah, so Earthquake doing so much to Duraludon.
Doesn't matter. I mean,
it's unfortunate.
There it is.
There it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Confirmation of the critical hit. That said, Earthquake's disabled now.
It is. Yeah. You know, Duraludon has a pretty strong defense stat, so it's very likely that critical hit it was the deciding factor between surviving the Water Spout or surviving the Earthquake rather, and not the Trick Room. A pretty smart play on Aaron's end, provided that he doesn't get critical hit by that Earthquake, because it does mean that he could reverse the speed order and allow his Duraludon to be faster than the Togekiss and the Rhyperior. So, a bit unfortunate for Aaron. You know, he had a very strong plan there. If that Duraludon was able to survive and fire off a Flash Cannon into either target, he would have been able to power through this next turn. But seems like Justin might be taking this game.
Yeah, Jellicent with another critical hit heading its way from this Togekiss. It's going to try the little Water Spout that could. Go on, Jellicent.
Very sad Water Spout.
Yeah, that's not what you want to see, is it? It's not the play. It does get a critical hit in return, though, so they are at least exchanging those a little bit. Probably not when Aaron wanted it, though.
No, we do see the confirmation of that weakness policy from Rhyperior. It actually shows off Swords Dance, too, which is a bit of an interesting play there from Justin. You know, possibly not wanting to, you know, risk missing his other attack. If Rhyperior's second attack is a Rock-type move, those are not known to be the most accurate, so, you know, knowing that Dazzling Gleam from the Togekiss would be able to finish off the Jellicent, he just opts for a Swords Dance there instead.
Yeah, I mean, maybe worried he was going to get Strength Zapped forever.
True.
But we'll see exactly how this one decides to play. I don't think there's any way that Aaron can really see this one out, but he's playing through it, wants to have a little more time to think about game number 3. Another critical hit from Togekiss. What a shocker, Jake.
Yeah, it's looking even more likely that it is that Super Luck ability, just based on the number of crits we've seen. I do want to point out that Aaron's play on the turn where his Duraludon got critical hit by that Earthquake, I think was actually very smart. You know, knowing that Duraludon likely could have survived that Earthquake, he probably takes a knockout with that Flash Cannon. If not a knockout, he puts the Rhyperior very low. Togekiss certainly would have been knocked out by Flash Cannon, but, you know, reversing the Trick Room at the same time means that, you know, his Duraludon would have been faster than either Togekiss or Rhyperior. I believe we saw game 1 confirm that Duraludon has a higher speed stat than that Togekiss. And it would have meant that Jellicent was also faster than Rhyperior, I believe. We saw... No, we didn't. I think we saw the strength stat before the Earthquake.
No, I think it was the other way around.
Was it?
To touch on the Jellicent Rhyperior, the Jellicent Rhyperior interaction, I think the Jellicent and the Duraludon is a great idea for Aaron until he sees the Rhyperior.
True.
I think as soon as you see the Rhyperior, you realize it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned in the game, a fantastic switch up from Justin to say,
absolutely.
hey, if this is what you're relying on to win games, I'm not going to let you do that.
No, a very smart bring from Justin was that Rhyperior, because he did essentially lose that first game to that combination of Duraludon and Jellicent in Trick Room. So possibly seeing if Justin wants to bring his own Trick Room mode. I don't believe we saw his third Pokemon that game. We just saw the Togekiss, Grimmsnarl, and Rhyperior. So hard to say what his third or his fourth Pokemon was. That Dragapult seems like it's a pretty strong offensive option, but if he wants to play more heavily into that Trick Room mode, the Bronzong could be a good bring as well.
Yeah, I don't see why you wouldn't. I mean, certainly limit once you deal, of course, with the Charizard.
Right.
Bronzong
good point.
Probably looking a little more favorable as something to bring along for this game.
Right, if you just compare like what Aaron has on his team, not many things other than the Charizard can threaten it. We did see Shadow Ball from Jellicent, but Jellicent not known to be the strongest Pokemon, so Bronzong likely able to weather a Shadow Ball if it really wants to, but it all depends on if Justin decides to opt for that mode.
Yeah, we'll see exactly what he decides to change up. I think one change was great coming into game number 2, and I'm thinking both players are going to have to consider some changes for game number 3.
Yeah, it seems like these leads are pretty tried and true for both of them. I wouldn't be surprised to see those mirrored leads again, but there could be a switch up here. It's interesting to see how Aaron's been playing this team. He has the Max Airstream option with that Charizard and the Trick Room option with that Jellicent, so he kind of played into that with Justin in this second game too. He kind of baited Justin into matching those Airstreams with his Togekiss, and then immediately set up that Trick Room. So it's a very strong start for Aaron, even though he did get met with that Rhyperior as soon as Trick Room went up.
And I mean, the Fake Tears and the Max Airstream into Dynamax Charizard, really smart play. Using that Grimmsnarl to the best of its ability and picking from its vast move pool the best move that suits your team. If you know you're going to be Dynamaxing your Togekiss every single time, you know that you're going to need to help out against the special defenses. I mean, you've got the critical hits to try and get there. But we are going to see an immediately change up from Aaron. Yeah,
I like this switch up from Aaron. Duraludon is really, really strong against both Grimmsnarl and Togekiss because they're both fairy types, and Duraludon has that very strong flash cannon. So a smart switch here from Aaron. I'd say this Duraludon is immediately threatening a lot of damage into either target, and he still has a support option from that Togekiss right next to it.
Yep. Do you think he's going to change up what he Dynamaxes here? Because we've seen the Charizard come in a whole lot early on, deal that damage, get that G-Max Wildfire down. But leading with Duraludon against two Pokemon that you really can kind of start answering with, might be the way to go with it.
It seems like he did too. I believe this is the Duraludon that is Dynamaxing this turn, so that might be an indication that Aaron, maybe left that Charizard at home. I believe we saw Blast Burn in his top 8 set, so maybe not the best option to bring unless you are committing to Gigantamaxing it. And this time, it looks like we're going to see that the Duraludon Dynamax instead.
Yeah, and I think that's a really nice switch up. Yeah, the G-Max Wildfire has been providing some nice residual damage, but it's not been doing enough. It's not been getting knockouts for him, which has been the problem. And now, in the mirror match between the two Dynamax Pokemon, Aaron just very clearly has the type advantage here.
Absolutely, yeah. The Duraludon is a huge threat here. We're going to see... I'd be very surprised to see anything other than a max Steel Spike from that Duraludon, just based on how strong that would be against both targets. Togekiss showing off that Follow Me for the first time this set, though. Yeah,
I actually really like that play, drawing some attention away from it, being able to do as much as it can, just to keep this Duraludon safe. Duraludon will max Steel Spike immediately, though, into the Grimmsnarl, which pops the Babiri Berry, showing that it doesn't mind those Steel-type moves as much. But it's a lot of damage, even with the Babiri.
Right. No, it's huge damage with that Babiri Berry. Clearly the berry is what made the difference between it being knocked out and surviving this turn. The defense boost for these Pokemon not going to be a huge deal this turn because the Togekiss is using a special attack in this Max Airstream here.
Yeah, Max Airstream after the Fake Tear is an easy knockout on the opposing Togekiss, and I think the reveal of that Babiri Berry makes that whole play a little bit less valuable for Aaron than he was expecting.
Definitely, he did lose that Togekiss, likely the target of that Max Airstream Fake Tears combo already, because I doubt you would, Max Airstream and Fake Tears a Steel type right off the bat. But he did get the huge damage off with the Max Steel Spike. He is at the +1 defense right now. Might come in handy if that Rhyperior is in the back, for example. The Whimsicott coming in place of the Togekiss now.
Yeah, and I think the Whimsicott's got to be one of the adaptations. If you're leading Duraludon and using that as your Dynamax Pokemon, you probably want to start matching the Max Airstream and seeing how much you can do that way. Thunder Wave from Grimmsnarl targeting down Duraludon, not getting there. And Whimsicott doesn't even bother trying to match the Tailwind yet, just firing off a Moonblast into this Grimmsnarl and getting rid of something that has really been a problem in the lead.
Yeah, a very smart play from Aaron. He knows that even if he is carrying taunt on that Whimsicott, he will not be able to do any damage, or he won't be able to taunt that Grimmstorm because it is carried in that Dark type.
Yep.
A great play of Max guarding that Duraludon as well, because it did block the damage from that Max Starfall, which would have been very strong from this Togekiss.
Yep, well, we did see right there, the Max Starfall was going to be following up towards it. I think this Whimsicott's struggling a little bit to provide as much as it needs, but it could Tailwind and make up for those Max Airstreams that Aaron's not getting the benefit of right now. Togekiss, for the last turn of its Dynamax, is just going to do Max Guard. Same with Rhyperior, just protecting. Not quite as impressive on Rhyperior's side. But Duraludon, sitting around, maybe able to try and deal some damage through the Protect if he goes after the Rhyperior. But then he would activate the Weakness Pulse. He did go after the Togekiss with it. Steel Spike stopped entirely by Max Guard in this regard, and Dynamax is done for the game.
Yeah, we are going to see the last Dynamax end of this top 4 set here in Dallas. But good play from Aaron, making the most of that Whimsicott this turn. Possibly knowing that Justin might just want to stall out the end of those Dynamaxes and not falling for any bait with the Whimsicott, getting that Tailwind up, making sure the Duraludon will be able to outspeed the Togekiss and the Rhyperior, even after that Max Airstream. And now we still have this Duraludon threatening some really strong damage with Flash Cannon, even more thanks to this Fake Tears. Yeah,
Whimsicott getting the Fake Tears down onto Togekiss. Doesn't want to be messing around in any regard that way. Flash Cannon following up immediately after Togekiss. Yeah, that's not sticking around, is it?
No,
that's
definitely not.
That's long gone as the Pokemon count immediately brought to just 2 remaining in this game for Justin. That said, though, Rhyperior is going to be given an opportunity to try and level it up. No questions asked there. Duraludon taking that Earthquake. Probably knew that it could handle that one pretty well, and Whimsicott's still around. Once again, we could just be looking at a Fake Tears Steel Flash Cannon combo.
Right, that Fake Tears Flash Cannon is going to be able to knock out either of these Pokemon most likely. Actually, no, Dragapult has that Clear Body ability, so you can't Fake Tears that, but Fake Tears Flash Cannon is certainly able to knock out this Rhyperior, and if Duraludon is using that Draco Meteor attack, which I believe we saw in top 8 from Aaron, able to finish off this Dragapult as well. So the Duraludon in a hugely threatening position here against both of these Pokemon, and Justin has to kind of pick which slot that he thinks the Duraludon will be targeting this turn if he wants to stay alive.
Yeah, do you really think you need to Fake Tears Dragapult? Like, it's already got paper thin defenses. That's just disrespectful at that point.
No, especially with that Draco Meteor. You don't need to Fake Tears anything with Draco Meteor.
I mean, if you're in Aaron's shoes and you've got the Duraludon, do you go with the Draco Meteor early and just hope you can clean up a little bit with the lowered special attack? Or do you hold it until you absolutely need it?
It depends, because if Aaron has either Conkeldurr or the Jellicent in the back, those are pretty strong against Rhyperior, so it might just come down to whether we see here.
Yeah, well, Moonblast will be heading towards that Dragapult. Duraludon's Flash Cannon into the Rhyperior. And no Fake Tears combo, but Rhyperior is able to hang on, obviously activating its weakness policy as well. So this Rhyperior could become a real big threat real quick.
Yeah, this is another Earthquake. It's going to hit both of the Pokemon on Aaron's end of the field. It will be able to knock out this Duraludon and possibly the Whimsicott. We did see it do a good chunk of damage that first time around. We're going to see if it hangs on just barely with that 20 HP.
Yeah, Whimsicott just clinging on there, being able to stick around. That said, I mean, he's probably forced to bring in this Jellicent, if he's got the Jellicent, of course. Jellicent or Conkeldurr would be pretty good here. Jellicent confirmed. And that Cassib Berry means, hey, guess what, Dragapult? You've got to go some to get the knockout here.
Yeah, and the Rhyperior being so low thanks to that Flash Cannon means that even if Jellicent has to stomach a Shadow Ball from this Dragapult, which most likely will still outspeed this Jellicent even in Tailwind, he will be able to Water Spout this Rhyperior for some good damage and still knock it out unless there's some unfortunate shenanigans with like a Thunderbolt paralysis or something.
Whimsicott doing a whole lot of damage. As you mentioned between games, the change up into Thunderbolt onto the Jellicent, the only real option there. Thunderbolt disabled by Curse Body. Dragapult so low after its Life Orb brings it super low, and a Water Spout from Jellicent enough to wrap up this game as Aaron Traylor will be your other finalist here in Dallas, Texas.